News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
We have shootings over the holiday weekend. Good morning, everyone. This is Montana Morning. It is Friday. Congratulations, you made it. It's January 2nd, 2015. I'm Peter Christian. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Montana Morning, the first edition of 2015. And before we get started with our newscast, I just want to say thank you to all of our wonderful listeners for allowing John, King, and I the opportunity to spend a couple of weeks with our families over the holiday weekend, and we appreciate that very much. Right now we have a cloudy sky. We have 7 degrees in Missoula, and our newscast this morning is sponsored by Temp-Right Service. For all of your plumbing and heating needs, call Team Blue, the local experts, 728-1111. The holiday weekend began with tragic circumstances, with a fatal officer-involved shooting early New Year's Eve day. A city police officer shot and killed a male suspect who was strangling a female hostage inside a vehicle near West Broadway and North Reserve. Sheriff's Office Public Information Officer Paige Pavallone described what happened when the officer confronted the suspect.
He was using lethal force on this person inside of his vehicle, essentially treating her like a hostage, and was not complying with officers' directions to let go of her and release her, and eventually lethal force had to be used against him. So he died at the scene, and the scene was then closed and secured.
Pavallone said because the shooting involved a city police officer, the sheriff's office was asked to investigate.
Just waiting on everybody to get all their information compiled, looking at all of it from, the mile-high view, and then when there's more information determined, it'll be released to the public at that time.
The Sanders County coroner has not yet released the name of the shooting victim. The officer involved has been placed on paid administrative leave pending a hearing on that shooting. In the second incident of its kind within 24 hours, the Missoula City Police Department has been asked by the Sheriff's Office to investigate an officer-involved shooting that occurred on New Year's Eve. Public Information Officer Travis Welsh says the incident occurred near Evero at about 11 p.m. on New Year's Eve night. Deputies responded to another domestic disturbance call in which the male suspect had fled in a vehicle. Welsh describes what happened next.
And came back via the opposite direction and accelerated toward the deputies. And at that point, one of them made the decision to fire his duty weapon based on his perceptions of danger to him and his partner.
Welsh says the suspect was wounded twice but received non-life-threatening injuries.
The male was struck twice in the vehicle, and the vehicle continued forward until it hit a tree when it stopped. The male was at that point arrested and provided medical treatment by the officers until he could be transported to a local hospital where he remains.
No names have yet been released. The investigation into the officer-involved shooting will continue today by the Missoula City Police Department. Republican lawmakers have released a proposal that would give health insurance to some of the low-income Montanans who would be eligible for coverage under Medicaid Expansion. Lead Newspapers of Montana reports the proposal, released Wednesday, would only cover the disabled, parents whose income falls below the poverty line, and some military veterans. Senator Fred Thomas of Stevensville, who helped craft the plan, says free government health insurance should not go to able-bodied adults without children. About 70,000 low-income people in the state would be covered under Medicaid Expansion, which Democrat Governor Steve Bullock has been pushing since the last legislative session. Bullock says the GOP plan would accept some federal money but leave, quote, tens of thousands, end quote, of Montanans uncovered. The Republican proposal has not yet attached any bills to be introduced during the 2015 session, which begins this coming Monday. As the 64th session of the legislature convenes next week, State Attorney General Tim Fox has been hard at work. Fox's priorities, which have been introduced with bipartisan support, focus on protecting children, enhancing public safety, and strengthening consumer protection laws. Ideas that Fox says are just common sense.
I'm very fortunate. I have very broad bipartisan support for the 2015 legislative package that I'll be forwarding through the Montana Department of Justice. And some of the sponsors actually are right here from the good old town of Missoula, and I'm thankful for that as well. We were real successful. We got all our bills passed in 2013, and we're looking forward, hopefully, to having as much or more success in 2015.
Fox's 2015 legislative priorities range from human trafficking to sexual assault prosecutions, even the sale of e-cigarettes to minors.
We start the process very, very early. In fact, right After the legislature left in 2013, we began scoping and meeting with stakeholders and law enforcement and health officials and others to find out what the burning issues are and where we can do better in making Montana safer and more healthy. So the bills that we draft and the bills that we promote generally at the Montana Department of Justice really are bipartisan.
Attorney General Fox will also be bringing forward proposals to enhance DUI laws. The chief of the Blackfoot tribe in Montana is recovering from illness and likely will be released from a Great Falls hospital before the weekend. The Great Falls Tribune reports that 85-year-old Chief Earl Oldperson was admitted to the hospital last Saturday morning. The nature of his illness was not disclosed. Oldperson's the elder statesman of the Blackfeet tribe, who was first elected to the tribal council back in 1954. He served as the chairman of the Blackfeet Tribal Business Council for decades and in 2012 was elected to his 26th term as a council member. Our new report on threats to Yellowstone National Park reveals that National Geographic magazine will release an issue in 2016 dedicated to the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. The Billings Gazette reports the issue highlighting the country's oldest national park will come the same year the National Park Service celebrates its centennial. Local health, state and public service health officials, are seeing a significant increase in the number of confirmed cases of flu being reported across the state. As of December 12th, almost every county and tribal health department reported cases to the state health department. Carl Millam with the Department of Public Health and Human Services explains.
Essentially, what we're seeing is an increase that's pretty much across the state. The increases resemble couple of years. You have influenza across the country and in Montana that function at a low level, and then it sort of catches fire. When it does, it'll rise very dramatically over a 4, 5, 6 week period to a peak, and we appear to be in the early stages of that.
Millam says DPHHS is also seeing an increase in hospitalizations. Immunization nurse consultant Susan Reeser said the best protection against flu continues to be being vaccinated.
We always like to say your best protection is to get your flu shot, and flu shots are recommended for everyone 6 months of age and older. And while the vaccine may work less well against these drifted virus, they still can offer protection and reduce illness, doctor visits, and missed days at work and school.
DPHHS recommends everyone 6 months or older get vaccinated for the flu if you haven't already. Newstalk time is 6:10.
Newstalk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Mostly cloudy skies today with our highs in the upper teens and low 20s. A winter weather advisory goes in effect this afternoon and will last through Saturday morning for a storm total of 1 to 3 inches. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for KECI 13.